Metroid. It's a series that a lot of people like that I never really got into. I played a few minutes of Metroid 1 and thought it was pretty terrible. I've played a few hours of Super Metroid and thought it was pretty alright. I own a Super Smash Bros. Samus amiibo, and that's pretty much my entire experience with the series. Honestly though, I've never been super into the Metroidvania style of game. I really like Cave Story, but I don't really consider that a Metroidvania, and I played 15 hours of Hollow Knight, and the less I talk about that experience, the better. But recently, I've been in the mood to play more relaxing atmospheric games, and Metroid Prime seemed like exactly what I needed, so I decided to try it out. So did I like it? Yeah, this game's awesome. The first thing I really noticed about the game was the controls. The game was made in the early 2000s, so first-person shooter controls weren't really standardized like they are now. The game has tank controls, where moving the control stick left or right turns the camera left or right, and moving it up moves you forward. Pressing the A button shoots, holding the R button allows you to aim freely, and holding the L button locks you onto the nearest target. It's very unconventional by today's standards, but it doesn't take too long to get used to. The appeal of this game shows itself almost immediately after the introductory area. You land on Talon 4 and you're not really told where to go and what to do. You look around, and since all you have at this point is your power beam and a jump, all you can really do is head through a nearby door, which leads you to an elevator that takes you to the first real area of the game, Chozo Ruins. While you're exploring the area, you'll notice that there are some doors that you can't open with your normal shots. Scanning the door tells you the door has a blast shield that can only be damaged by explosive weapons. So you move on, you fight some bees, and after that you're given your first upgrade, the missiles. Right after you get the missiles, there's a door in the same room that looks exactly like the one you couldn't open before. So you shoot a missile at it and boom, blast shield gone, and now you know exactly how to get past that first door. You go through the door and you're rewarded with your first energy tank, which reinforces in your mind that blasting open doors is good, and if I do it, I'll get cool things for it. And right next to the energy tank, you're greeted with a small round hole conveniently shaped like that morph ball thing you used in the tutorial. So now you know that you need to come back to this room once you get the morph ball. This gameplay loop is incredibly satisfying. Getting new abilities and being able to use them to access more of the game is just fun and rewarding. I'm aware that this is just basic stuff when it comes to Metroidvanias, but it's still impressive how well Retro Studios were able to carry over the formula of Metroid into 3D on their first attempt. This wouldn't mean anything if the abilities weren't fun to use, but thankfully, this game has some pretty cool ones. I really like the boost ball that lets you go up half pipes, the space jump that gives you an extra jump in the air, the gravity suit that lets you move underwater and just looks really cool, and especially the different beam weapons. There are 4 types of beams in this game: the power beam, the wave beam, the ice beam, and the plasma beam. The power beam is your default weapon. It has a very fast fire rate but is the weakest of the beams. The wave beam is electricity based and is frequently used for puzzles involving finding power conduits with the thermal visor and then activating them by shooting them. The ice beam is super powerful and freezes enemies, but it has a pretty slow rate of fire. Finally, the plasma beam is very strong and very fast, but has a shorter range. If you find the right upgrades, these weapons can even get an extra powerful shot that costs missiles. Each weapon has its own unique uses, and I found myself switching between all of them throughout the game. Overall, a very solid set of abilities. A genius addition to this game is the scanner. By pressing left on the D-pad, you go into your scanning visor. Things that can be scanned will be indicated by an orange or red icon on them, and then you just hold the L button to scan them. Scanning things is a very useful feature that can tell you how to get past a certain obstacle, how to defeat certain enemies or bosses, gives you some interesting lore to read, activates switches. Basically, the scanning visor is a very useful tool that you will use for the entire game. I'm a very impatient person when it comes to video games. If I don't know how to do something, I just get frustrated and give up most of the time, which is the reason why I don't really play traditional Metroidvanias, because they usually just make you figure everything out yourself. Sometimes I need someone to tell me, hey, you need the boost ball here, when I try to roll up a half pipe for the 5th time. Sometimes I don't even need the help though, I just scan because scanning things is fun. Scanning enemies tells me about their behaviors and interesting facts about them. Scanning certain things gives you some extra lore. It makes this world feel like a place that could actually exist, and I like it a lot. On top of the scanner, this game is also just really good at making you know where you're supposed to go. This is another reason that I can't get into most Metroidvanias, like Hollow Knight for example. The game is like 1 billion square miles long, and it doesn't tell you where you're supposed to go, ever. I estimate that at least 2/3 of my playtime were spent wandering aimlessly and only ever progressing by complete accident, which isn't a satisfying feeling. In Metroid Prime, however, it's much easier to know where to go. Most of the time, areas you aren't supposed to be in are inaccessible, and even when they are, you usually won't be able to get very far before realizing that it isn't where you're supposed to be going. The map is also very useful. It's a 3D map, so you can tell whether a door is above you or below you, which is way more useful than it sounds. It also tells you which doors need to be unlocked with what weapons, so you don't waste your time trying to reach a door you can't even open. Sometimes the game even marks areas of interest on the map for you, which is an incredible feature for someone like me who has trouble knowing where to go in games like these. Sometimes you need to do a few puzzles to progress or find hidden collectibles, and most of the time they aren't too bad. Scanning things will usually give you hints on what you're supposed to do, so people like me who couldn't get past the first puzzle in Leighton vs. Right without looking up a guide won't have too much trouble. The only puzzle I had to look up the solution to was this one in Phendrana Drifts. There's a Chozo shaman door you need to get past, and scanning it tells you need to find the shaman's twin to unlock the door. I assumed that meant scanning the other Chozo shaman statue to unlock it, but that didn't do anything. Upon looking it up, I found out that what you had to do was blow up the statue with a missile and then bomb the morph ball hole that is revealed when the statue is gone. I feel like they could have made that a bit more obvious, but the statue does say it's damaged when scanned, so maybe I'm just not smart, I don't know. Either way, it's the only puzzle I got stuck on, so it's never too taxing in that regard. Occasionally you'll be faced with a boss fight and they're pretty inoffensive. They certainly aren't winning any awards, but they get the job done. The difficulty in most of them is just finding out how to defeat them rather than the act of defeating them. You'll rarely die more than once against these guys unless you're bad at the game like me. Once again, they're not anything special, but their existence doesn't keep me up at night. Moving on from the gameplay, something this game does really well is the atmosphere. This is what compelled me to play the game in the first place, and it certainly doesn't disappoint in that regard. Even nearly 20 years later, the environments look fantastic and it's just pleasant to look at your surroundings. Every area is visually distinct and stands out from each other. The music only helps in making every location feel unique and memorable. The Chozo ruins are the remnants of a bygone civilization filled with poisonous water and hostile wildlife, with a mysterious, alien-sounding track playing alongside it. After that, Magmoor Caverns is a dangerous lava-filled cave with a strong, imposing soundtrack. Even certain sub-areas like the Sunken Frigate have their own tracks. I won't be going into every single area in the game, but each one is memorable as well as the music that plays alongside them. From what I've been saying these past few minutes, you'd think this would be a perfect game, right? Well, no, but no game really is, except for Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, but that's the exception, not the rule. First, some enemies in this game can be a real pain. Specifically, She-Goths and Space Pirates. She-Goths are the masters of wasting time, only being vulnerable to missiles and only after they use their Ice Breath attacks, which they use whenever they feel like. They aren't immune to the Plasma Beam, but you get that so late into the game that it doesn't matter at that point. Space Pirates, however, are an entirely different story. While She-Goths are more annoying than difficult, Space Pirates demand a lot from the player with such limited movement controls. They're smart, they're fast, and they come in groups of at least 2. The beginning of the Phase-On Mines is a nightmare to traverse because you have to go through several rooms filled with these guys before you can even reach the first save point. Definitely one of the more frustrating sections of the game. I've heard some complaints about the Chozo ghosts as well, but I personally didn't find them too big of a hassle. Their attacks are more telegraphed than those of the Space Pirates, so I had an easier time dodging their attacks. Still, I think they're worth mentioning from the numerous complaints I've seen about them. Second, the game can just be too dark at times. There are a few instances where I didn't know where to go because I just couldn't see. It's not a super prevalent problem, but it happened enough times that I felt like it was worth mentioning. Finally, the Chozo artifacts. You need to find all 12 of them hidden throughout the game to reach the final area. The game gives you hints as to where they are, but you're on your own for the most part. Some of them are as simple as just heading to the area and maybe fighting an enemy or two, but some of them are on the level of Simon's Quest in terms of not making any sense. Probably the most infamous of these is the Artifact of Elder. For this one, you need to head to the control tower in Phendrana Drifts, destroy some crates to reveal an icy window, melt the ice with your plasma beam, then shoot a missile at the tower in the background. You can't lock onto or scan this tower, so most players would just assume it's part of the background. I just used a guide for these. It made it feel more like a treasure hunt rather than just guessing and getting lucky like I assume kids in 2002 did, so I'd recommend doing that. Even still, by that point in the game I was just ready for it to end, so I would have liked if I didn't have to do this. Something that isn't necessarily the game's fault but is still worth mentioning is the performance issues when playing on Dolphin. Opening the map is extremely GPU intensive on modern PCs due to the GameCube's GPU being much different from that of a PC, and because of that, using the map destroys the game's frame rate at times, particularly in large areas like the Chozo ruins. I've heard there are builds of Dolphin that can bypass this issue, but I didn't play on those. It doesn't ruin the game, but it is quite annoying, so keep that in mind if you plan on emulating it. In conclusion, Metroid Prime is a fantastic game built around a very satisfying loop of getting items and using those items to access more of the world, which is fun to explore because of each area's unique aesthetic and music. It manages to carry over the core principles of a Metroidvania game into 3D while also being very accessible to people like me who find the genre too intimidating. Who knows, maybe this game will get me to try other Metroid games. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, Metroid Prime is really cool. Thank you for watching, and make sure to suggest what game I should cover next so I could ignore all of them and talk about Guilty Gear X on the Game Boy Advance.